Hi! Today I'm gonna make a simple video about clashes. It's gonna be a general overlook, so if you're like a super debate expert, this video may not be exactly for you, but if you're starting out in debate or if you're just intermediate at debate, this video will be very helpful. First, let's start out with what is a clash. And a clash is a key issue that is a point of disagreement between the proposition and the opposition in a debate. So it is a key issue that both sides disagree upon. So what is the point of a clash? Well, since there is around 2 to 3 clashes in a normal debate, usually those clashes will do a very good job of organizing the 3 issues in the debate and giving the judge and the debaters a better understanding of what happened in the debate. So most times you will find clashes in the third speech. The third speaker will talk about clashes in the majority of their speech. Sometimes you'll find reply speakers who talk about clashes, but reply speeches can also be centered around other ideas other than clashes. So mostly, let's focus on the third speech when we talk about clashes. Okay, so now that we know the generalized idea of what a clash is and what the point of them are, let's look at the overall structure of one clash. If you're the third speaker, you'll usually start with the title of the clash, something that's easy to remember for both the debaters and for the judge. Sometimes the debater will title the clash with one word, a word such as freedom, or a word such as economy or economic benefits. But what I like to have my students do and my debaters do is to phrase the titles of clashes as questions. For example, if you're doing a debate, "This House would ban zoos," the title of one of those clashes could be, "Do zoos abuse animals?" The proposition would say yes. They do abuse animals. Zoos abuse animals that are bad for animals. And the opposition would say, no, most of the time they don't abuse animals and they try to treat animals well. So this is a clear-cut definition of proposition saying yes to a clash question and opposition saying no. And since they are of the opposing sides on this key issue, they are clashing, hence the term clash. Right, so you need to have the title first. That was a long explanation. Now that you've said the title of the clash, you will now say what the opponent said that relates to the clash. So what were their arguments that relate to the clash? What was their refutation on that clash? What did they say in both their first, second, or possibly third speech about that clash? And then after you've explained those things, you would say why what they said was either irrelevant or wrong, or both. And then, after you've explained their side and what they said that relates to the clash, you'll now move on to what your side said that relates to the clash. So what was the argumentation that you had that related to the clash? What was the refutation that you did to attack their side of the clash and things like that. And then you'll explain how what you said was relevant. Of course, you can go back and forth between what they said and what your team said, what they said and what your team said, or you could just lay out what they said and then lay out what you said. But there are multiple ways that you could structure this. But you do definitely need to compare both material from the opponent's speeches and your team's speeches. The last part of finishing this clash is you explain how that you have essentially won that clash. You would explain that to the judge, that you won the clash, and this is one reason why you're going to win the debate. So that's basically the structure of a clash. The title of the clash, what they said, why it's wrong or irrelevant, what your team said, why it's right and relevant, and then why you won the clash. And if you were the third speaker, you would have to do that 2 to 3 times. Going over the 2 to 3 clashes is probably gonna take upwards of 70% or maybe 80% of your speech. So the third speaker's speech is mostly focused around those clashes, explaining all of those clashes. So something that you should do before you go through the details of your clash is you should signpost your clash. And this means that you would have to explain to the judge, hey, look, I have these clashes in my speech. Say you have 3 clashes, you'd be like, we're gonna go over clash number 1, clash number 2, and clash number 3. So now that we know the structure of a clash, I think the next really important thing to discuss is how do you find clashes in the debate? Honestly, it's just a very simple answer. It is what was talked about most in the debate. Clashes comes from constructive material and refutations. So look at the arguments and the refutations from both sides. What did the first speaker say? What did the second speaker say? Especially, what did they contest each other on? What did they fight each other on? Those things are gonna be the clashes. Also, when you're looking for clashes, almost always there is a principled clash, especially if it's a good debate. There's usually at least one principled clash and then maybe two practical clashes, or maybe one practical clash. But yes, you should be looking for that principled clash. A very good habit to get into as a third speaker is to try to find out what the clashes are even before the debate begins. You can predict them because clashes come from arguments that come in the debate. And you should know what your team's arguments are during the preparation time for the debate. So using those arguments, you can kind of make an educated guess as to what the clashes will be. And usually that educated guess is right. So yeah, get into the habit of trying to find out your clashes before the debate begins to make your life easier during the debate. Okay, so that was a pretty broad generalized look at what clashes are. I think a really good way to teach clashes would probably be to show you an example of a debater going through their clashes. I might actually do that in a future video, but I just wanted to keep this video nice and simple so that people could use it to learn just the broad generalized idea of what a clash is and what the structure of a clash is. But yeah, I hope this has been useful to you, especially to the people who really like to do third speaker speeches or are interested in learning third speaker speeches. And so I hope you use clashes effectively in the future. All right, have fun debating, and I'll see you next time.